Don't get me wrong.
President-elect Donald Trump absolutely has a constitutional right to nominate him, and the Senate has the role of advising consent. If there is one person they're going to block, I would guess it'd be Matt Gaetz. And I think the way they'll do it is they'll say, let's not make this your problem, Donald Trump. I'm just going to say the votes aren't there. Put someone else up who can get through. I think the most likely scenario would be it's the Deputy Attorney General he's appointed, his criminal defense attorney, Todd Blanche, who, whatever you think of him appointing as criminal defense attorney, he has the qualifications to be there. He's a former federal prosecutor. He worked for the Southern District of New York. But Matt Gaetz is a person of low moral character. This is widely known about him, and I'm kind of bullish he's not going to get through.
But the interesting part is the issue isn't that left-leaning people have a choice. It's actually Republicans fighting between each other because there seems to be some animals, the way they define it, rhinos.
Easy, Frank.
But as usual, Sonny Hostin, the most entertaining person in the world that provide all the dislikes on the channel The View, has something interesting to say.
Yeah, you know, I think what we really need to think about is the position that he has been nominated for by this president elect. To be the Attorney General means that you're responsible for the Department of Justice. And the Department of Justice is one of the largest law enforcement agencies in the world. And it's very serious business. I mean, you have the Civil Rights Division, Antitrust Division, the Criminal Division, U.S. Attorney's Offices, the FBI. And within the Department of Justice, you know, you have the Sex Crimes Unit, which is what I was a part of, child sex crimes and child trafficking. How could you nominate someone with allegations of child trafficking trafficking across state lines and having sex with a 17-year-old?
Let us investigate.
If he did something so bad, repeatedly with a young person, and he was guilty, why is he still free? For 4 years, they could have nailed him. They didn't. They were like, nah, he ain't Jesus. No point nailing him. The issue they had, some of the witness point of view or whatever, they contradicted each other. Another point, one of the key witnesses has a gangster past, criminal past, so hey, it might affect your credibility depending on the person, right? And before you come at me and say, hey man, it's a criminal history, but you don't know what the criminal history is, it might be something small. Okay, here's CNN. It's very interesting that Matt Gaetz pleaded not guilty to a specific thing, but on the other side you got this guy pleading guilty to trafficking, is trying to point the finger at a person that's still not guilty. And for the technical people, Matt Gaetz was never officially charged. Mayor Eric Adams was indicted for the same thing. Trump was indicted for the same thing. Matt Gaetz was never indicted. If you want to play the comparison game.
My understanding further on in the interview, they discussed the fact that once he finds out that she's 17, he stops having sex with her. Well, statutory sex doesn't require you to know what age the person is. It only requires the age. And so if these things are true...
So wait a minute. So if you're having sex with an underage girl,
yes,
she tells you she's 18,
yes,
and you have it anyway, you're still liable.
Yes, you
yeah,
are.
She's actually still only 17.
It's
Just to
statutory
clarify.
rape.
Yeah.
And so I'm deeply disturbed at the lack of judgment that we are already seeing from the president-elect.
But you're not surprised.
I'm not surprised, but I think a lot of people are. A lot of people said things like, he's just kidding. He would never do something.
Well, this is the best joke of all.
That's not true.
Because
This is how I talk maybe to random people to make a joke, maybe at school when I was a kid, but on a show, on TV, that's wild. I can even say this on YouTube and put my channel in danger. I'm jealous of their freedom of speech, but ABC is the owner. And when they saw what they said like that, they started thinking just like me. They can sue for defamation.
Sonny, you have a legal note.
I do have a legal note. Thank you, Whoopi. Matt Gaetz has long denied all allegations, calling the claims, quote, invented, and saying in a statement to ABC News that this false smear following a 3-year criminal investigation should be viewed with great skepticism. That DOJ investigation was closed with no charges being brought.
And as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, speculation is interesting, but whenever it goes wild, that will put you in your place, reminding you you're not the owner, and if they're going to sue me, you're going to have to speak different or you're going to get fired.
the question that this is someone Donald Trump wants to get through, and I'm told Gaetz is not someone he will sacrifice. He would rather sacrifice some of the other controversial potential nominees that we know Donald Trump has looked at and selected than someone like Matt Gaetz.
Yeah, I'm hearing that as well, that he is all in on Matt Gaetz.
Mr. President, are you reconsidering the nomination of Matt Gaetz?
No.
It's like somebody asked me, would you sacrifice your kid for this kid that has been suffering? And I'm like, no, I don't need to think about it because I know how important this person is to me. Which leads us to this clip of Tucker Carlson and Ross Vo, this unique person that used to work with Trump in the first administration, and he has some interesting words.
I read in my Bible this morning that you don't believe something unless 2 or 3 people are witnesses and say, and there is none of that. In fact,
that's Mosaic law right there.
In fact, the weaponized Department of Justice said we don't have the proof to pursue these allegations.
I know.
And so then you read in the story.
But they accused him of it.
They accuse it. They make the case. The reporter read it this morning. And then they say it should be known that Matt Gaetz denies that these allegations has occurred. Of course he denies it because they're not true in the Department of Justice. There's no accounting of the fact that these things have been proven not to be true. And yet people, and there's a tendency on our side, and this is very troubling. It's not just the left, which is kind of state regime propaganda. There's a tendency on our side to believe that if there's smoke, there must be fire. Why do we do that? Only because this person has been a confrontational, courageous, convictional leader in a true generational talent, I might add. So,
what the last point is indisputable. That's just a fact. I mean, Gaetz is the most articulate member of Congress. It's like, no, it's not even close, right? So they hate him for that because he's a danger.
It's very simple, ladies and gentlemen. Destiny is a very fast-speaking, left-leaning person, and Matt Gaetz is a Republican version. And generally, in those circles, if you speak fast, they assume you're smart, and they can't handle the idea that a Republican is smart.
Oh, Anna's just a secret right-winger. Anna's just a secret right-winger.
She's not laughing at Republican, but they teased her as if they're Republicans that she sounds like that. And here I have an older millennial's opinion.
So here's the thing about these Democrats saying they're going to release the Gaetz report. First off, they already investigated this. Like, that's what the Gaetz report is. It's an investigation where they determine Matt didn't do anything wrong, that there was no evidence Matt did anything wrong, and that the allegations were bullshit. They even determined that the witnesses were completely uncredible. But now they want to release the report that just has allegations that were already defeated. And here's the thing, I would be completely in favor of releasing this report, but I also want to know which members of Congress used the $17 million to pay off sexual assault victims. Because that's a thing. Members of Congress use $17 million of taxpayer money to pay off allegations of sexual assault and sexual harassment. But here's the thing, if you want to see that Gaetz report, that's perfectly fine. You're going to get to see a report where the people investigating determine there was no crime. But I want to see the reports of where members of Congress use our money to pay off sexual assault victims. Doesn't that seem like something we should be able to see? Like, I don't need the victims' names. Let them remain anonymous. There's no reason to drag victims into this. But I definitely want to know what members of Congress used my money to pay off people, because we know they did, to the tune of $17 million. So why don't we know which members of Congress are essaying people and we're paying for?
I mean, that's it. If it makes sense, okay. If it doesn't, okay. Just let me know what you think. Okay?
Don't get me wrong, ma cosa kita bong. Butta fire na mi blonde, kush hash, purple skunk, criollo, colombici, jam jam, dur loqueta, verdetta, welcome.